Hi, this is Sean McVeigh, Sean's Outdoor Adventures, and in this video I'm going to share with you some Rexpid Broadheads and talk about some compound bows that you might want to use them with, and let's get into it. So first of all, I have 2 fixed blade broadheads in this hand and 3 mechanical broadheads in this hand. Generally speaking, you want to have a bow that's going to tune really well to shoot a fixed blade broadhead. I've owned Matthews, I've owned Bowtech, I've owned Elite, I've owned Hoyt. All of these brands of bows I've been able to tune very well to shoot fixed blade broadheads. I've also owned bow brands like Sanlita, Bear, PSE. All of these brands too, they have a lot of different models. Now some models, they will shoot a fixed blade pretty well. Some models, maybe you're better off going with a expandable. Let me just talk about those ones that you're better off with expandable and explain why. So let me grab 2 bows just to give you a little sense of what I'm talking about. All right, I decided to grab 3 bows. First, I'm going to talk about the Bear Alaskan. I also have some Sanlita bow that has a hybrid cam system. So this is a hybrid cam system. There's a yoke system at the top with the cable that goes to the top limb. The other cable goes from one cam to the other. Now, if you'll notice, these cams are really large. Now, when I first got married, almost 17 years ago, my wife bought me a Hoyt Vectrix, it was called. It had a smaller cam, much smaller cam, but it still had the hybrid cam system. And in my experience, the hybrid cam systems that have these larger cams do not tune as easily for fixed blade broadheads. In fact, the Bear Alaskan, I had trouble getting fixed blade broadheads to fly with this bow. So I shot mechanicals with it. Same with my Dragon 10. Just the design of the hybrid cam with the really large cam, the dynamics of the whole shooting process, it seems to me that these types of bows have a little bit of trouble tuning for the fixed blade broadheads. So if you own something like a hybrid cam system with a really large cam, you may be better off going with a mechanical broadhead as opposed to fixed blade. Right here is the Sanlita Dragon X9. It's got a 2 yoke system. So the cable system goes from one cam and it splits to a yoke at the limb on the other end, and then the other cam splits to the limb on the other side. So the cams are connected to the limbs as opposed to each other. And this bow tunes really well for fixed blade broadheads. In fact, this bow that I'm holding, I just recently went on a hog hunt and used the Rexpid Big 3 and had a really perfect shot on a hog with this bow. So this type of bow is kind of more of an entry-level bow, tunes very well for even the fixed blade broadheads. And again, it has the double yoke system, so the overall behavior of the bow is a little bit different than in a hybrid cam system. And so I've been able to use it for both fixed blade and mechanicals. Now here's an example of, this is a Bowtech, what is this one? I forget. This is the Revolt X, so it's a couple years old. This has the Bowtech deadlock system, and so the cables go from the cams to the cams. They do not touch the limbs at all. And the way they have designed it, and Elite has this design, Hoyt has this design in the sense that the cable goes from, let's say, the left-hand side of the bottom cam and goes up to the right-hand side of the top cam. And then the left-hand side of the top cam, that cable goes down to the right. So it's a crisscross effect in the cable system. But I've been able to get these bows to tune to shoot fixed blade broadheads really well. Matthews, even though they have a really large cam also, they have a yoke system on both ends, but it's different. It doesn't attach to the outside of the limbs like these other bows. The Matthews has a little yoke system that goes to the inside of the limb on either side of the cam, and they just tune up really nicely for fixed blade broadheads. So I just wanted to share with you some thoughts on what kind of broadheads to use and what kind of bow. It's really only the bows I've really only had a major issue with as far as the tuning for the fixed blade are the hybrid cam systems with a really large cam. So just kind of beware of that. And if you have one of those, you know, you may need to go with a expandable. Now I will also mention this. Let's say you have a bow and you're not real good with tuning and you don't really know what you're doing. The easiest thing to try is moving the arrow rest for tuning your broadheads. And I just want to talk through tuning broadheads real quick, for broadheads. And I'm mainly talking about fixed blade. No matter what kind of broadhead you shoot though, you really should practice with it to make sure that it hits where your field points do. You could always replace the blades or sharpen the blades before hunting. That's what I tend to do. I actually, when I buy a box of broadheads, I will set one broadhead aside and I will practice with that and save the others for hunting. And I usually try to shoot at a broadhead approved target that's a little bit worn out. So I'll shoot field points in it to wear it down a little bit, and then I'll shoot a broadhead through it so that the broadhead goes all the way through the target and sticks out the back, but doesn't go all the way through. And then I actually unscrew the broadhead carefully off the back of the target, then pull the arrow out, and that way you don't risk bending any blades or anything, regardless of the brand. And I have a little wrench that goes over the broadhead to be able to loosen it without risking to cut yourself, which is a major concern. You don't want to cut yourself, especially near hunting season. So as I was starting to say, when you shoot your arrow at the target, you'll shoot a field point arrow first. Let's say it hits dead center of the target, and then you shoot something like the big 3. And let's say that it shoots and hits low and to the left of where the field point arrow hit. You'll want to move the arrow rest in the direction of the field point. So if it hit low left, you want to move the arrow rest up and to the right. Now when you do that, I am talking micro adjustments. 1/32nd of an inch or half of a millimeter can have an impact on the arrow flight. So depending on how far off it is, if it's really far, you might need to move it a little bit. But if it's, let's say it's 2 inches down and to the right, well, we're talking maybe a 1/16 of an inch movement. Could even be less. I mean, we're talking you want to move it just a little bit. So very small increments, move the arrow rest in the direction of the field point and shoot again and see how you do. Now let's say you do all that and it's on at 20 yards, but then you walk back at 30 and it's a little to the left. And then you walk back to 40, it's even more to the left. Well, if you get into that scenario, you're going to need to do some tuning with, depending on your cam system, you're going to have to maybe tune some with the cam lean with the yoke system, or if you don't have a yoke system, you have something like this Bowtech over here, then you may need to shim the cam. And the deadlock system for Bowtech, you actually can just turn a screw to shim the cam. Other than that, like Matthews, Hoyt, you're going to actually have to take the axle out, take the cam out, swap out the shims that are in here, and move the distance of, or the positioning of the cam. As you can tell by hearing, that is a little bit of an involved process. If you're new at archery, I would not recommend trying to do that on your own. Take it to a bow shop and ask them to do it for you. But that's a little overview of what kind of bows you can use for the different broadheads and what to be aware of as far as tuning goes, no matter what kind of bow you're using. And I want to conclude with this. Although, mechanical broadheads, which are expandable, tend to have less wind drag and maybe less tuning involved, they still may need some. That's why it's important to always test shoot your arrows. And when we're talking about testing a broadhead, you got to use a broadhead approved target. Don't try to shoot any of these kind of broadheads into like a bag target, because it's the cutting of the broadheads is, one, they just don't have the stopping power to stop the arrow, a lot of those bag targets, and two, you're going to cut those up so quickly and so bad, you're going to make your target not useful. So get a foam target that is geared for or designated for a broadhead. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this helps, and until next time, take care and God bless.